ByteDance agrees deal to hand over control of TikTok's U.S. operation to newly formed joint venture. The government will take over the management of Wang Fuk Court following the deadly fire. And a funeral with the highest honors is held for firefighter Ho Wai Ho. Happy Friday, you're watching TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. A deal about TikTok's future in the U.S. has been struck, allowing it to continue operating in America. TikTok's parent company ByteDance has signed a binding deal with a consortium of American and global investors to form a new TikTok joint venture to run the app's U.S. operations. The milestone will end years of uncertainty for the popular short video sharing platform to avert a U.S. government ban. But Beijing has yet to say whether it will approve it or not. Danny Zhou has details.
TikTok CEO Shou Ziqiu reportedly told employees Thursday that the joint venture will operate as an independent entity with authority over U.S. data protection, algorithm security, content moderation, and software assurance. The new spin-off, TikTok USDS Joint Venture LLC, will be 50% held by investors comprised of Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX. Just over 30% of the venture will be held by affiliates of existing investors of the Beijing-based ByteDance, and the remaining 19.9% will be retained by ByteDance, according to Chou's memo. The deal will see a 7-member board of directors, mostly Americans, to protect U.S. data and national security. In addition, TikTok's American user data will be stored in the local system operated by Oracle, while the algorithm behind its video feed will be retrained in the United States in a bid to ensure the content feed is free outside manipulation. The agreement is due to close by January the 22nd next year. In China, a foreign ministry spokesman gave a non-committal answer when asked about the joint venture deal on Thursday. He suggested reporters refer to relevant authorities and reiterated China's position on TikTok is clear and consistent. Earlier, authorities indicated they welcome enterprises to conduct negotiations and arrive at an interest-balanced solution in accordance with the Chinese law and regulations. TikTok's fate was in limbo in 2020 when US President Donald Trump tried to ban the app in an unsuccessful attempt. Under the Biden administration, the US Congress passed a bill forcing the company to divest its US operations or face removal from app stores over alleged national security concerns. Since Trump returned to the White House, he has repeatedly extended the deadline of its enforcement to keep the app alive in America. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
The government announced that it's taking over the management of Wang Fuk Court in Taipo, which was heavily damaged in the recent deadly fire. Authorities are seeking to dissolve the Housing Estates Owners Committee under the Building Management Ordinance. This, as the government stressed, the measure does not strip away the rights of affected property owners. Timothy Lee reports.
The government said it has applied for the dissolution of the Management Committee of Wang Fuk Court's Owners Corporation after careful consideration, adding that it has appointed a new management company to oversee the property.
The government has acted according to the Buildings Management Ordinance, Section 31, to dissolve the Owners Corporation's Management Committee and to appoint China Kim Hub-On Management Company Limited, which is a subsidiary of the China Kim Group, to handle all the day-to-day operation of the Management Committee. This action will only help the owners of the Wang Fuk Court to handle the various complicated legal procedures with expertise assistance.
Max stressed the housing estate's management is facing unprecedented challenges, and that authorities have listened to the views of some residents who wanted the government to help manage the property. The Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs also noted the new management company will perform its duties free of charge. In a bid to support affected property owners, Max said the Nina Wang Charity Management would donate $5 million to cover legal and other professional expenses for the Owners Corporation if the government's application is approved by the Lands Tribunal. When asked whether the government's latest move was a result of the recent arrest of the current and former chairman of the estate's owners corporation, Mack emphasized the issues are unrelated. She added that authorities do not intend to take away the rights of Wangfu Court's property owners. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Housing Department said it is currently considering reducing the amount of scaffolding for the ongoing renovation of 15 public housing estates and using suspended working platforms, popularly known as gondolas, instead. This after authorities demanded the removal of scaffolding netting from more than 400 buildings undergoing renovation following the recent Wangfu Court fire. Some in the construction sector noted that while the gondolas are sufficient for exterior renovation work of buildings, part of the process still requires bamboo scaffolding. A number of representatives from the sector also raised concerns about the high cost of the large-scale replacement of scaffolding with gondolas, adding that they've occasionally been involved in workplace accidents. Police arrested 5 people who allegedly stole $1.8 million from Mandatory Provident Fund or MPF accounts using stolen identities. The police said a resident reported a loss of $810,000 in MPF accounts earlier. Investigations found a syndicate opened MPF accounts by using other people's identification documents. They later withdrew the deposits using reasons such as retirement. The syndicate tried to open accounts by using 12 people's IDs. 3 victims suffered losses of $1.8 million in total. 5 men were arrested, including the ringleader and key members. They're charged with conspiracy to defraud and money laundering. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has announced the establishment of a national firearm buyback scheme to reduce the number of guns in the community following the Bondi Beach shooting. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said his country's federal government will establish a national buyback to purchase and destroy surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms in the wake of the Bondi shooting. The scheme will mimic a buyback that was established in response to the fatal shooting of 35 people at Port Arthur in the island state of Tasmania in 1996.
The government will establish a national gun buyback scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms, the largest buyback since the Howard government initiated one in 1996. Australia's gun laws were last substantially reformed in the wake of the Port Arthur tragedy. The terrible events at Bondi show we need to get more guns off our streets.
The fatal shooting of 15 people at Bondi Beach on Sunday night was Australia's most deadly mass shooting since the 1996 attack, which prompted a major overhaul of the country's gun laws. Albanese said there are currently over 4 million firearms in Australia, more than there were at the time of the Port Arthur massacre. Australia's states and territories will be responsible for collection, processing and payments under the buyback. The Australian Federal Police will be responsible for destroying the surrendered firearms. Albanese declared Sunday as a day of reflection to honour the victims of the Bondi shooting.
I confirm that the federal and New South Wales governments have declared Sunday, 21st of December, a day of reflection to honour the victims of the horrific terrorist attack at Bondi Beach and to stand in solidarity with the Jewish community. On Sunday, flags on all New South Wales and Australian government buildings will be flown at half-mast as a mark of respect for the lives lost and the grief shared across our nation. We invite people across Australia to light a candle at 6:47 p.m, exactly 1 week since the attack unfolded, as a quiet act of remembrance with family, friends or loved ones. We're asking all Australians to observe a minute of silence.
Albanese also revealed the Australian Office of National Intelligence has identified a regular online video feed from ISIS that reinforces the Bondi shooting was an ISIS-inspired attack. Daniel, TVB News.
The U.S. military conducted 2 more strikes on small boats, killing 5 people. The U.S. Southern Command posted video of each of the boats moving through the water and then being bombed. The military said 3 people in one vessel and 2 in the other were killed. There have now been 28 known boat strikes, with more than 100 killed. Commands say intelligence confirmed the vessels were transiting along known drug trafficking routes and were engaged in narco trafficking. No evidence was provided. Still ahead, the Census and Statistics Department will conduct a population census next year. The EU has agreed a deal to loan Ukraine 90 billion euros. And U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to loosen federal regulations on marijuana. Welcome back. The Census and Statistics Department will conduct a population census starting next year. The department will randomly select 10% of the 2.7 million households in the city for a detailed inquiry. Selected households will receive a purple envelope containing the notification letter. Residents can then complete the questionnaire online or over the phone. Only one questionnaire is required per household. Selected households should provide data on their members' professions, income, and their living conditions. The department stressed it won't ask for identification documents for this. The Fire Services Department held a funeral with the highest honors for firefighter Ho Wai-ho, who lost his life battling the massive fire in Tai Po last month. Ho's hearse departed from the Universal Funeral Parlor in Hung Hom, then headed to Wang Fuk Court and Sha Tin Fire Station before stopping at the final resting place at Gallant Garden. Samantha Lee reports.
Firefighter Ho Wai-ho's funeral with the highest honors was held at the Universal Funeral Parlor in Hong Kong. An array of white wreaths lined outside the funeral home, with thank you cards from residents put up on its wall. A heart-shaped well from Ho's girlfriend Kiki was placed in the mourning hall. Firefighters slowly marched into the hall. In attendance were Chief Executive John Lee, Director of Fire Services Yuan Yanqing, among other senior officials. Crowds of residents gathered outside to pay tribute. This man who came to send Ho's hearse off expressed gratitude for his sacrifice for the city. Draped with a Hong Kong SAR flag, Ho's coffin was placed on a hearse by fellow firefighters. Ho's helmet was handed to a firefighter who sat on the front seat of the hearse. Some mourners could not hold back their tears. Escorted by the police, the coffin was carried to the fire site in Tai Po and arrived near Wang Fuk Court at around 11 a.m. It received bows from government officials, such as Tai Po's district officer. Ho's hearse then made a stop at Sha Tin Fire Station, where Ho was last based. A fire bell was rung, symbolically relieving Ho of his duties. A stream of mourners could be seen along Shingmun River. My son is also a fireman who battled the fire in Wang Fuk Court, so I feel this on a deep level. The memories of battling the fire are still fresh in my son's mind, and sometimes he couldn't stop crying at night, and I have to comfort him, this lady said. The procession ended at Gallant Garden in War Hope Sheikh Cemetery, where civil servants died in the line of duty are buried. The 37-year-old fallen firefighter Ho Wai-ho has served in the Fire Service Department for 9 years. In recognition of his sacrifice, the funeral was held with full honors for Ho and concluded in Gallant Garden, which is Ho's final resting place. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The police recaptured a robbery suspect who fled from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital this morning. The man was under arrest in hospital. The 35-year-old escaped at around 11 a.m., having been in custody in connection with multiple thefts. He was seen running barefoot and wearing patient clothes. He allegedly ran off while having X-ray checkups. Sources say he was apprehended on Wednesday for his involvement in cases of stolen items totaling over $50,000. Overseas, the EU has agreed a deal that will see it loan Ukraine 90 billion euros. Russia's President Vladimir Putin says the move does not bring peace closer. David Garrett has more.
Until the last moment, it wasn't clear EU leaders would get there. The smiles indicated something was brewing after a day and night of negotiations. As a self-imposed deadline approached, a deal struck for Ukraine.
We approved a decision to provide 90 billion euros to Ukraine for the next 2 years. As a matter of urgency, we will provide a loan backed by the European Union budget. This will address the urgent financial needs of Ukraine.
The President of the European Council says this show of support proves Europe is with Ukraine today, tomorrow and for as long as it takes. The enormous aid package will help Ukraine for the next 2 years. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was in Brussels to tell allies Ukraine needs the money by the spring to rebuild in the event of peace or to increase drone production if war continues. It is Plan B. Zelensky wanted Europe to fund it with frozen Russian assets. Belgium, in particular, was firmly against using frozen Russian cash, as their Prime Minister likely told Zelensky when they met. Much of the more than 210 billion euros of Russian money frozen by Europe during the war is in the Belgian financial clearinghouse Euroclear. Russia's central bank sued Euroclear last week. Belgium's government felt using that money could spook global investors and provoke a backlash from Moscow.
We would have sent a message to the world that Europe can no longer deliver anything, and that would also be a strategic disaster. We have arrived at a solution that everyone can stand behind. Okay, it took us a little bit of time. This is Europe, but today everybody can leave this meeting room victoriously. I think Ukraine has won. It received the urgent, predictable and reliable financing it needs for the next 2 years.
The immobilized Russian assets will remain immobilized, and the Union reserves its right to make use of the cash balances to finance the loan.
Vladimir Putin up onto the stage and ready for his end-of-year press conference where the Russian president was asked about Europe's pledge. Putin said they are refusing to end the conflict by peaceful means. Nevertheless, we do feel there are signs from the Kiev regime that they are ready to engage. I will say what I have always said. We are ready and willing to resolve the conflict by peaceful means on the basis of principles I have set out before. David Garrett, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order directing the loosening of federal regulations on marijuana. Tracy Furness has more.
U.S. President Trump signed the executive order that could reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug and open new avenues for medical research, a major shift in federal drug policy that inches closer to what many states have done. Speaking to press before the signing, Trump said the switch would move marijuana away from its current classification as a Schedule I drug, alongside heroin and LSD.
Today I'm pleased to announce that I will be signing an executive order to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule III controlled substance with legitimate medical uses. For decades, this action has been requested by American patients suffering from extreme pain, incurable diseases, aggressive cancers, seizure disorders, neurological problems, and more, including numerous veterans with service-related injuries and older Americans who live with chronic medical problems that severely degrade their quality of life.
Trump was quick to add the reclassification was not sanctioning recreational use of marijuana.
It doesn't legalize marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug. It has nothing to do with that.
This as the US Department of Health and Human Services unveiled a series of regulatory actions designed to effectively ban gender-affirming care for minors that include puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgical intervention.
So-called gender-affirming care has inflicted lasting physical and psychological damage on vulnerable young people. This is not medicine, it is malpractice. We're done with junk science driven by ideological pursuits, not the well-being of children.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The United Nations has expressed concern over the Trump administration's imposed sanctions on 2 more International Criminal Court judges over their role in investigating Israeli officials for possible war crimes.
The Secretary General expresses serious concern about the designation of 2 additional judges of the International Criminal Court to be sanctioned under the executive order, as well as the ongoing designation of other International Criminal Court and United Nations officials. While the UN and the International Criminal Court are separate institutions with separate and distinct mandates, the UN considers the ICC a key pillar of international criminal justice, and the Secretary General respects its work. The Secretary General also emphasizes the importance of the basic principle of judicial independence. The UN remains committed to cooperating with the ICC.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Thursday he had designated the judges for penalties that can include a freezing of assets in U.S. jurisdictions and a ban on travel to the U.S. A man suspected of killing 2 and wounding several others at Brown University has been found dead in New Hampshire storage facility. 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente, a former Brown student and Portuguese national, was found dead Thursday evening from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to Rhode Island police. Valente is believed to have died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.